Welcome to Doing the Dang Thing podcast. I am your host, Jill Schmeeding. This podcast is all about helping everyday women play big and aspire for more. Welcome to part 2 of the interview with Heather Morgan, where on the last episode, part 1, we talked a lot about agency and speaking up when you're uncomfortable and why I personally struggle to do that. And I know I'm not alone in this arena, you could say. And Heather, ended the episode talking about Christianity and religion and her personal experience, which is different from mine, as I talked about. And I wanted to just pick up where we left off and kind of take it from there. Before I do, though, I think it's important to give these content warnings. The content warning is simply to empower you, my listener, with the knowledge for you to make a healthy decision about how and when you consume this podcast episode. There also is explicit language throughout this episode, and also the opinions of my guest on any episode that I have are just that, the opinions of my guest, not of me personally. With that said, we are going to pick up where we left off and welcome Heather back to the show. So I hear you on everything you're saying, and it's interesting to me because if I'm being honest, and I'm going to be honest, I am a Christian, right? And you and I have differed on this as our friendship has gone on, because my upbringing was Lutheran, and then I left Lutheran church in like early 20s because I just didn't feel like it was fulfilling. It was a lot of the you have to do the liturgy and you have to get baptized as a baby and you have to do all this singing, like back and forth type stuff and long prayers and Our Fathers and I didn't resonate with that. I didn't have a personal relationship with God. So in my early 20s, I left the church and started non-denominational. And that's where I've set my whole life. Now, as an adult at 41, I'm starting to question more things, right? And I'm meeting more people that have different opinions, like yourself. And so it's making me, instead of just having this blind faith and doing what I was told, right? As in my parents were like, you're going to be Christian and you're going to be Lutheran and you're going to go to church every Sunday because that's what you do. And you're going to get baptized as a baby, and any baptism that you have as an adult doesn't mean anything, right? Or it doesn't mean it unless you're baptized as a baby. Like you have to, because that causes you to be saved. And I'm like, I don't really believe that. So there is a lot. I've gotten baptized 3 times in my life, and I love every single one of them. Yeah, every single one of them. I went to Israel and got baptized in the Jordan River, right where Jesus was baptized. Wow. I'm a super Christian. I'm going to heaven no matter what. So but the reason why I want to say that is because this whole episode we're getting off on a tangent, but it's okay because it's all about agency, right? And telling people what to do, right? And so I just want to, for all my listeners out there, I love talking to people who have difference of opinions. Your story is very unique. I never grew up in the purity culture or the type of Christianity, if you want to call it that, that you grew up in, and I'm sad that was your experience. My experience is different, but I also know that it's causing me to dig deep into, why do I pray to God for a parking spot? I've had people tell me, God doesn't care if you get a good parking spot or not. God doesn't care if you get the job of your dreams. Like God can't care about those granular things. And I'm like, I disagree. Like he's almighty. He's omniscient to whatever.
Yeah.
Oh man, I just yeah, and so I just lost points. No, I'm just joking. He's that and all knowing, and so why would he not care about keeping me safe and getting me a good parking spot so I don't have to walk through many streets, whatever. I do believe that, and yeah. And there's just a part of me, I was talking to my dad the other day about it, actually, because I didn't go to church. I just don't even go to church anymore. makes me sad. I used to go to church every week. I felt like that was good for me. And I just have lost something. So I don't go to church anymore. And my dad's like, well, I feel you. My dad's kind of figuring his faith out as well at 73. And he was like, well, I understand if you don't want to go to church, but he was like, just don't walk away from the faith, like that's the big thing. And I'm just like, I don't see myself doing that. But I also um yeah, I don't see myself doing that, but I also have been questioning a lot. And so I just want to say that on this episode because I hear you 100%, and I'm sad that that is your story. But it gives me a lot to think about on why I believe what I believe, and also just this idea of like having blind faith, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if I can say something about that, just like be validating too, is I think I do know it to me, for me, it's unfortunately a very small number. There's a beautiful church here in Denver that's really, it's called Half Ass, which is hilarious. House for All Sinners and Saints. Nadia Volz Weber is like famous. She started it and she doesn't preach there anymore, but it's an LGBTQ affirming church. It's very open minded, but like that, I met some people there that I was like, how are you religious? Like, how are you but they're finding healing and freedom in these different ways, and it's really beautiful. They do a lot of social justice stuff. I really respect it. So I know that for some people, for whatever reason, some people got to encounter religion and it edifies them and makes. I always say I work in immigration, and almost everybody's religious. There's very few atheists who help immigrants who are going into the Sonoran Desert, bringing water illegally, to people crossing the border. It's always monks and nuns and religious people. So I think that what it is, though, and talk about agency, or talking about like what is the, like for you, I think probably more what took your agency was the unfortunate thing that happened when you were younger. I didn't have that experience. And religion literally did the same thing to me. And I don't think it's religion. I think that there's this force in the world. I don't know how to identify it, but there's anything can become a religion in the sense of this is the one way to do it and you don't get to decide. People do that politically. If you don't believe this, you're a bad person, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist, right? People do it for diets, right? If you eat animals, or if you're a vegan, people will make judgments like that means that you're all this and you're all that. So I think that whatever it is, it's that force in the universe that it perverts everything. Sex is beautiful, right? Sex is fantastic. No, nothing to say about that. But then people fuck it up, right? With that power. It's that power over thing. So I do recognize that there are people who have religious experiences and it like changes their life and it's really good for them. I just have never had that experience.
Yeah.
And I can hear all the Christians going, come to my church. I'm not going to go to your church. I can't do it. It's so traumatizing. I can't do it. But I love Jill. Jill is respectful, and I respect her and her beliefs a lot because they don't make you an oppressive douche. And I appreciate that. I see good things in you. So I respect that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I just, oh man, how do I say this? I feel like I've lived a sheltered life in all respects. And so I love talking to people who are different, have different perspectives, different views. It's made me a smarter, more intelligent, more well-rounded, and have more empathy. And I think that's huge
Yeah.
in the world. So yeah. Gosh, this has been a great conversation. I want to keep going and just see if there's anything else in regards to if there's anything else in regards to me not speaking up when I'm uncomfortable or people. I'm not trying to use this as a counseling session. It doesn't have to be about me, right? It's just why do you think people if there's anything more that you want to add to this, or if there is anything that you've learned in your somatic therapy training that people could try. Because again, this is why I love our friendship. You give me new ways of looking at things, which helps me when those situations come up. You know what I mean? And you tell real life stories about, like you said, getting out of bed because you don't want to like move the bed and disrupt the person next to you, right? And so you just lay in bed miserable. I do that. I've done that, right? And then the other thing that came to my mind, and stop me if you have something you want to add. I just want to say the somatic therapy that I'm actually going through with Joan here in Denver, she's a lovely lady. I had a like a touch session with her a few weeks ago, and I think I told you about this, but I thought it was miraculous because she touched me. I was laying on like a massage table and she laid her hand. She asked for consent. You know, I'm huge into consent. Please
Sure.
ask me before you touch me, before you do something to me and my person. But she asked me permission. Can I lay my hand under your knee? Which I
Mm,
thought was a weird place to put it, right? But I was just like, yes, you may put your hand under my knee. So she just put it there and held it there for like minutes, right? And as things started to come up, I was just like, this is weird, like whatever, whatever. And so she did that. And then she switched and she like put it under my ankle on the other side of my body. And the only thing that came to my mind was, as I was laying there letting this person touch me, was all I want to do is ask her to hold my hand. I just want
mm,
her to hold my hand, right? But I was too afraid to be like, Joan, can you switch sides and just hold my hand? Finally, I got the gumption up to say, this is good, but I, I'm afraid to ask you to just hold my hand. And she was just like, oh, is that what you want? And I was like, yes. And she goes, oh, and then I just immediately like put my hand down to like hold my, and she goes, no, why didn't you ask me? And so I had to
yeah.
say the words out loud, and I was just
Yeah.
like, can you please hold my hand? And so she let me hold her hand, or she held my hand, excuse me. And we sat there for a few minutes like that. Why is that so hard for me, Heather? Oh my God, it's stupid. It's stupid.
No, not stupid. It's adaptive. It's adaptive. You have to be kind to yourself.
I know.
But yeah, but I know what you mean though. You're like, how does that make sense? I'm the same way. I'm like fearless in so many things. But if you're saying, like, ask me to hold your hand, fuck no, I'm not doing that. I hate that stuff. I'm asking you for nothing.
Yeah.
I think a bunch of factors, and I think especially so. Just speaking as a woman, and I did grow up in purity culture, but you don't even have to grow up in church purity culture. Our culture in and of itself, there's a lot of bodies in the media, right? So we're like, we're such a sexual culture. Not really, not really. And especially, unfortunately, white people, we've inherited this really weird legacy of being dissociated from our bodies because we see it as primitive and we see it as animalistic and we see ourselves as civilized. And what that means is I stand in a box at all times. I have no desires. I'm not like those people over there. I make cities. I make the world. I'm not this person who paints their body and lets their boobs hang out and jumps around and thrashes and screams. That's what these lower people do, which I know sounds horrific, but I genuinely believe that this rests in all of us whose ancestors were colonizers. And it's not because you believe that. It's not because you believe that. It's because it's a belief and a behavior system that is encoded in our bodies that we believe that we can't desire anything, move our hips, we can't be sexual. You don't want or need anything, you make shit happen. So I do think there's a piece of that because we're both white people in saying that. But also, I think our culture, because it was like settled by religious people, it was settled by Puritans in particular, real weird ones, so antibody, and so it's always like admitting you want desire or pleasure or ease is not allowed. We come from. I'm thinking real big picture here. You're like, why am I doing this? It's immigrant trauma. Immigrants do this a lot too. I work with immigrants who just came here, and there's this feeling of work hard, work hard. And anytime you want anything gentle or at ease or anything just like quote frivolous that doesn't have a purpose, it doesn't make money, is the most selfish thing you could ever do. And our ancestors are immigrants like 2 generations back. This is not far. This is very close. So this is again adaptive. They had to work really hard and put away all of their needs and desires to live, and then they teach us that stuff. So I definitely think that's the water we're born into. That's the water we swim. And then as a woman, there's always this thing of what kind of woman asks for what she wants with her body. Should I say the word? She's like, she's a whore, right? That's what we think.
Yeah.
She's a jelly,
Yeah.
she's a seductress, or she's a slut. We say all these that's all derogatory. What kind of woman wants it? So even if it's not sex, I really think there's something about, plus paired and coupled with your particular experience about, I don't get to make choices about my body because somebody did that for me. Um, how could you make a decision, Jill? How could you make a decision? Like until you decide to say, I part ways with my ancestors, I part ways with the decision of that motherfucker. I don't agree with my abuser anymore. Because that's what I've watched, people in my mom's generation, they agree with their abusers. Everybody I know, my mom's generation, had a creepy uncle, or had weird shit that went on, or just abusive parents that beat on them and stuff like that, and they'll defend their parents, you know and I just think, as long as you do that, like, it's such good news that you're an adult, because you don't have to do that anymore. And I think when I say that to myself, or when I've said that to myself, it makes me shaky. The little kid in me is like, you have to like them, you have to agree with them, because that's what little kids think, because they have to be kept safe by these caretakers, right? You have to live in a world that has some order. We need some authority, right? You can't just have total bedlam. I mean, I understand that, but it's not either or. It's not like authority plus abuse, or everything is reckless. That's not true. It's not true. And I know that 1,000%, because I do know that in my body now. And I've seen my life go more to the middle, and know that, like, you can have a little bit of structure in your life and also have agency. And like I said, no one fucking dies. No one fucking dies. Least of which you. It doesn't hurt anybody. And the more I have friends that say their needs, and it's kind of overwhelming to me sometimes. I try it back, and, like, I'm like, this is an amazing exchange. I didn't know you could do this. You have to practice it. We're all, as women, you're just supposed to be quiet and pleasing and of service to everybody, right? And so you can't, there's just that, it's so black and white. It's just such meaning making, to say, be quiet and pleasing. It's like, how is it unpleasing to say, I have to fucking pee, or get your cat out of the room? I'm terrified. Your terror is more important than my goddamn cat. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not going to die. I could put him outside. He'd be so happy. I could put him up in a room with food. He didn't give a shit. He's just going to sleep in a pile of blankets. Like, why is that more important than I'm feeling terror? I always say that with roller coasters. The guy I dated in high school was like, I'm gonna make you like roller coasters. You're gonna like them by the time you're done with me. And I was like, this is not a life skill. I don't
Yeah.
need to get over my fear of roller coasters. You don't have to get over your fear of cats. I mean, it would obviously make your life easier, because if you hang out at my house, it'll be easier for you. But if you never got over it, that doesn't make you a subpar person. You get to be scared of things, unless it's crippling your life.
Yeah.
But I can trust your fear. You know what I mean? I believe you, and it deserves to be alleviated. It's just ridiculous that, to me now, it's ridiculous that we protect um, this, like, perception of comfort over a genuine pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
I'm starting to be able to. It's hard though. It's hard for me. I'm saying this all passionately, like I'm so good at it, but it's hard for me to say, like, no, I want this instead. Like I did last night when I interrupted this gentleman, was just like, I need to stop. I need to check in. I'm not in my body. I've never said that.
Yeah.
And it was really, really beautiful. So, and he was really open. And a lot of people are more open than you think. The only people who aren't are the ones, like, abusing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Oh
need to
my God.
protect them.
Oh, what did you just say?
Why do we need to protect those people? They're not protecting you. In a lot of cases, they're supposed to be protecting you. So when I hear you saying, like, well, I know my parents are good people, it's like they probably are in a lot of ways. Nobody's all of anything. But it was their job to say those things to you. It was their job you don't have to take care of them. They I'm a parent, and it's tiring and hard, but fuck me, that's my job. That's my job. And I'm allowed to be tired and sad, but I'm never allowed to say, and that exempts me from taking care of my kids. So I have massive mental health issues and get all sorts of overwhelmed and have all sorts of trauma. It is just not an excuse. And I know how hard it is to parent through trauma. I absolutely know. And I've told my kids, I'll pay for your therapy. I'm so sorry. I tried really hard, but it's no excuse. So I don't want to speak from the parent's perspective too, and be like, you can't look at your kid and perpetuate that stuff,
Yeah.
and be exempted from responsibility for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Oh man. I had to just take it all in. I had comments that I wanted to say, things that I wanted to like rebuttal on, and in this moment I'm just like, I just want to soak in everything you just said, plus let the listeners soak in everything you just said. Um I think it's interesting. There's one thing that I do want to say is you and I met in the salsa dance community, and salsa has been something that has been such a bright light in my life. I started doing it last year, March 2022. I did it to impress someone, so I kind of started for the wrong reasons. I did it because I wanted to share moments of fun dancing with this person, and we've had those. We've definitely had those moments, but it was when shit started to get hard, like trying to do those double turns, that I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore because I didn't do it for myself. Right. And so, anyways, I digress and say that I came back just not too long ago. I realized I wanted to do it for myself. And so I went back to La Rumba here in Denver, Colorado, had a wonderful, wonderful, I mean, fuck
Good.
me, wonderful night, right?
Yes.
I say fuck me
Magic
because it's just like, it was
and the Irish
so.
sense. Right?
What did you say? What did you say?
The Irish sense. Irish people always talk about, oh, fuck me
I
and coffee, whatever, you know?
Yes, yes. I must be a tiny bit Irish in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, it was such a beautiful night of dancing. And to make a long story short, there is a gentleman who is Latin, and this goes back to your comment about white people and not like, you said it more eloquently than I can say, but in the sense of like, I don't kiss my parents, like we don't kiss, each other. We hug. So I'm thankful for that. My mom probably kisses me on my cheek potentially, but I just don't remember being too affectionate in my family like that. And especially now as an adult, I think the most we do is like hold hands when we pray together and we hug. We definitely hug, and I appreciate that. But it is meeting more and more Latin people, and I have given more hugs since March of 2022 than probably my entire life. You know what I'm saying? Because you hug before a dance, or you don't hug before. You hug after a dance, even if it's shitty, you still feel like you have to hug.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
oh God. I need to stop doing that. But yeah, you hug friends when you meet them, you hug at events that you go to because people love to party together. And so anyways, there is this Latin gentleman who I just spent some time with recently, and we were at a restaurant. And I will say that there was a part of me that has grown up thinking sitting on the same side of the booth is like, who does
Oh,
that,
yeah.
right? Like, as a person, I would be like, sit on the opposite sides of the booth. Like, why do you have to be so close to each other?
Right way. Yeah.
Yeah, the right way. Yeah, black and white. Okay, there's.
Just time straight for Jesus. I know that was your thing, but he remember the Holy Spirit. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh God. No, I had that in my Lutheran junior high dances though. It's
Oh,
like, yeah, separate by the Bible or whatever. I feel like we had to be that much space apart from each other. Yeah. But anyways, my point in this whole story is to just say that it felt amazing. Okay.
mm-hmm.
It felt amazing to me to be close to him, to touch him, to rub his arm, which is what I wanted to do, right? And
Yeah.
and to not feel like it's inappropriate, right? Like I can do that because I want to. I have agency. Like I can be affectionate. I can do PDAs if I want to in public, right? But I grew up thinking that's not right, or I dated other people that were just like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that for whatever reason. And so it was just a beautiful thing. That's all I'm trying to say. It was a beautiful thing to leave what I've known my whole life and say, oh, people do it differently. And he's super
Yeah.
touchy feely and affectionate. And he wants to see, he was the one who came on the other side of the booth to sit next to me. And before, years ago, I would be too embarrassed. I'd be like, oh my God, get on the other side. And now I'm just like, fuck that. Like, come closer, I want to
Yeah.
squeeze your bicep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So it just felt really good. And I guess that's the story that came to my mind where it's just like, oh, it feels so good to like, if something's not working for you, oh, like it's okay to change it. And maybe
And it's okay.
that's.
I hate this. I hate this, or I want this. I think sometimes we're like, oh, be appropriate, or that's what bad people do, or think. There's like these weird judgment thoughts. Did you finish your thought? I'm sorry. I had a
Oh, yeah, no, I lost it. Continue.
Well, you had asked before too, like what are some somatic things to do to like get in touch with your agency, and kind of what you're saying. I in my journey of because I come from not a well, my parents didn't like physically harm me or anything, but we had there was not like any affection really, and they said like nice words here and there, I guess, but we're from New England, you know. So it's just like good job, do your job. I don't know, like I know my mom loves me very much. She's very fiercely loyal, but there's no hugs, there's no and I never remember wanting them. I remember just being like, that's fine with me. And every time I accidentally touch one of my siblings, we all make a big deal about it. It's so fucking uncomfortable. And I mean, we would like die for each other, but we can't touch each other's knees, right? Like it's too disgusting and overwhelming and shocking. So, so you think, like you're saying, you think your whole life, that's how I am. I'm the kind of person who doesn't like touching people. And then, yeah, I married a Latin man. I was like, oh no, I like to touch people a lot. And to be fair, every culture has bullshit baggage. I've talked to lots of Latin people. They will tell you themselves. I won't even go into it, but everybody's got a thing. I'm not trying to hate on white people, but I'm white. So it's like, this is my work to do. But yeah, when you do meet more open people and you feel that in your body and you're like, what is this? And you start to notice, that's why I love what I call intuitive movement or like ecstatic dance, which is basically you put on some really electronic tribal, like, you know, dance kind of music. And then you move exactly how your body wants to move. And you have to listen to your body and judgments come up like crazy and you'll start to hit all of your tight spots in your brain, all of your stopped up spots. What are these called? Like knots, all the knots in your psyche and in your body, the places where your upbringing or your programming or whatever it was, your trauma will tell you, we don't do that. We don't do that. And you feel into it and say, do I want to do that? You know, I tried to do like more sexy things because I was like, sexy people are shallow and stupid, and I made all these like judgments about them. And then I was like, something in me, if I'm honest, and I listened to this like delicious music, I want to move like this. And I tried it all alone, and the judgment went screaming. And then I was like, but that was kind of fun. And I let myself say, that was kind of fun, like a little tiny voice. But I was like, I'm just going to let it pop out and admit it. And then, you know, I was a little overwhelmed and I'd stop or whatever, but slowly starting to go, what is the next delicious movement? What do I want to do? And instead of being like, look at me looking awesome when I dance, sometimes like I'll literally, you can't see me if you're not on the YouTube, but I'll do like those movements where you like open up your arm and just reach it to the sky and the music is playing. And I'm like, that's not a dance move. It just feels great. And I just let myself feel great and say, this feels good to me. That and then the other exercise I had shared one time that where you think about what you want most in the world and you reach your hands out to get it. So you like reach out to bring in to physically reach your hands out and you pull it towards you slowly, slowly with your eyes closed, pulled towards you the thing you want most in the world, and watch what your body does. Because it's or push away physically with your hands, slowly push away the thing you don't want and see the voices and the resistance that comes up, and just keep practicing that until your body can start receiving. So it's super interesting that those two I think are really accessible, anybody can do. um, but it's been huge for me to be like, oh, I actually want stuff. and uh
Yeah.
and what I want surprises me. Like you're saying, you're like, I'm the kind of girl that does PDA in a booth sitting next to a guy. Like, maybe you are. Wouldn't that be interesting? And maybe
Yeah.
you're not. You don't have to be. I'm not saying like if everybody's liberated, they're all going to be fucking in the street. I'm not saying that. But if that's you, like, just own it, you know?
I know. Well, I've always said, and I told this to my parents. I mean, I don't think they listen to these podcasts. But I did tell them, I'm like, damn, I feel like I belong in like a nudist colony. I
Yeah,
love,
right.
I love being naked. I love going to bathhouse. I love, I just, yeah, there's something about it. And I mean, that's a podcast for another day on where I love to be naked. But it's one of
It's
those
like the I
things.
will eat it in the box in the creation. I'll be naked in the bathhouse. In the hot springs in the pool.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm just like, there is something about it. It's so liberating. It's so freeing. I feel like the swimming suits are so restrictive and they pinch at certain areas and they tight and they, you know what I mean? It's just like, I just want it to be free. I just want to be free. And so it's very taboo though, you know, to tell people that like, oh, nudist colony or, you know, hedonists or whatever. Um, whatever. Who fucking cares? Like, I'm not trying to go with you. You know what I'm saying? I want to go with the people that want to be there and like have fun and explore. And yeah. So anyways, I'm sure all my, oh God, you know what? I'm not even gonna say it. It's just been so much fun to explore, to learn, to see what I like, see what I don't like. And like you said, do I love PDAs on the same side of the booth? Maybe with the right
Mhm.
guy, but like maybe not, maybe I'm going to be like, oh, that's a little too much, or whatever.
But how liberating for you too to be able to say, and it's all experimenting. Once people are like, you can learn instead of made a mistake, bad, bad, bad. But it's like, okay, that wasn't my thing. Maybe you tried that out and you just went home and felt really uncomfortable. The whole time you were like on edge. How amazing though to tell somebody, I want to like knock it out of the park when we get home, but here I would just feel better if we didn't. And if they respected that, how cool would that
Yes.
be? And then you still get to enjoy all the yummy stuff or to put that out there. And then you start attracting people who are like, you know what, me too. I've had partners like that where I was like, let me tell you something. This is kind of how I am. And they're like, oh my God, I have a lot of sensory issues. And I'm like, I don't like this. And they're like, neither do I. It's like, oh, good. So now we don't have to play this weird game and role of like, this is how people do it. It's like, that's
Yes.
not how I do it. And then you get to have a good experience and then you can be freer. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that is a great way to end this show. God, I love talking to you, and I really
Want me to
hope.
say that statement on mushrooms?
What did you say?
My statement that I told you on mushrooms.
Do tell, do tell. We have a few more minutes.
The mushroom spirits told me this pussy is mine. This experience is mine. It's mine. Whatever your experience is yours. That's my whole.
Amen to that. Amen to that. If you're in Denver, Colorado, right? I mean, the mushrooms are they're working their way out to be what, legal or just non-criminal?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
non-criminal. Yeah.
yeah. But you can, yeah. So we're not saying that we do mushrooms, right? Or
I just
but
said
they
mushrooms. I could just be a weirdo. I'm communing, with spirits. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you're right. This pussy is ours for all the
yeah,
ladies listening out there. We have the power to say who gets it and who doesn't. And oh man, what a great episode. What a great episode. I love it. I love you. I love you. And I love talking with you. And thank you for taking time out to visit today and sharing all of the one thing I love about YouTube's, Instagrams, whatever, is the ones that actually give tangible examples of what to do. Not
mm,
just the ones that are like, hey, is this your problem? Are you traumatized? Were you, and then it's like, and that's the end of the video. And I'm just like, but wait, how do I fix this? So I really appreciate you, Heather, coming on here today and giving tangible examples of how people can, kind of the pushing away, the pulling to what do you want, pushing away what you don't want, and everything. So I just really appreciate you sharing that information. Yeah.
yeah, opens
So
doors.
yes, yes. So anyways, do you have any other closing thoughts?
Oh, always. But I'll let you end your podcast.
How about this? We'll reconvene in a couple more month-ish, and I'll have you back. I would love that.
Cool. Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
Thanks for having.
awesome. You're most welcome. Thank you. Well, that's it, everyone, ladies, and I'm sure there's going to be some gents tuning in to these two episodes. Oh my goodness sakes. I had so much fun with Heather, and you're either laughing right along with us or you're cringing in your seats at like worrying about whether or not my folks are listening to these podcast episodes, which I don't think they are. But wow, so much good information. Amazing, I think, and just thought-provoking stuff. That's what I love giving you, my listeners, on Doing the Dang Thing podcast. I'm going to go let you enjoy the rest of your day. You guys all keep playing big and aspiring for more. Take care, everyone.